week-long coverage from the City of Dreams. A glorious spectacle of pageantry and grandeur. 7 days, 2,000 guests. Multiple events. Multiple controversies, from street parties to Not My King protests. From themed concert to the royal family drama.
Watch the most comprehensive coverage only on WION with me, Molly Gambhir. It's a tradition as old as the British Empire. A ceremony that we haven't seen in the last 70 years. A day that promises to be one of the grandest in British history. Witness the coronation of King Charles III with me, Molly Gambhir, all the way from London. For the next...
There are many others.
Hello and a warm welcome to WION World is One. You're with me, Katie Pilbeam, broadcasting from London this hour. Let's get to the headlines. Some 8,000 council seats are up for grabs as voters decide who will run services in 230 local councils in England. Zelensky visits The Hague to meet with the leadership of the International Criminal Court, which has issued an arrest warrant for Russia's Vladimir Putin. India's foreign minister to hold bilateral meetings with Chinese Russian counterparts ahead of a key summit in Goa. Google takes a major step towards a password-less future by rolling out passkeys, a new and secure way to sign into apps and websites. The UK is ready for the King's coronation. Streets in London are all decked out for the procession on Saturday. Israel is bracing for a disruption day. The protest movement against the government's judicial reform is set to conduct several civil disobedience acts across the country. Well, currently the coalition government's bill, it is to remake the legal and judicial system. It's on hold right now. According to reports, the latest disruption is to keep the passion of the protests going, as protesters seek to ramp up its anti-government demonstrations once again. The events reportedly will be based on the theme of equality. Media reports suggest protesters will block major highways and intersections around the country. Well, this includes the Ayalon Highway that runs through Tel Aviv. Earlier, this kind of disruption days, they've led to clashes between protesters and police. Israeli police also made multiple arrests. Well, several key political leaders were also arrested. Opposition leaders insist that renewed civil disobedience is necessary after Israeli Justice Minister Yariv Levin's comments, where he says the coalition government intends to pass its reforms one way or another. Well, let's get more from our correspondent who's there for us in Tel Aviv, Jody Cohen. So let's just reiterate some of the facts for you just now. So it has really come to this situation, and it's called a disruption day. Now, last time there was disruption in the country, well, they lasted for days, these so-called disruption days, and they led to clashes between protesters and police. And during those days, we know that multiple arrests were made. And what's important to register is that some of these were key political leaders. They've been arrested during these days. Now, opposition leaders, though, they're saying that the civil disobedience, they're saying that it is absolutely necessary. And this is after the Israeli Justice Minister, his comments. Now, again, let's maybe just rewind and take you through what's happened so far. So currently, the coalition government's bill is to remake the legal and judicial system. That's on hold right now, and that's why we could potentially get more disruption. Well, the protest movement against the government's judicial reform is set to conduct several civil disobedience acts, and this is across the country because the bill is on hold. Now, according to reports, the latest disruption is to keep the passion of the protests going, as protesters are seeking to ramp up their anti-government demonstrations once again. Well, the event reportedly will be based on the theme of equality. Now, media reports suggest that protesters will block major highways and intersections around the country. So we could have a lot of disruption today. And we know last time the Israeli police made multiple arrests during these days. And importantly, several key political leaders were arrested as well. Now, this is all to do with reform, judicial reform, and that's exactly why we're seeing such disruption. Now, opposition leaders insist that renewed civil disobedience, they're saying it is necessary after Israeli Justice Minister Yariv Lev's comments, where he says that the coalition government intends to pass its reforms one way or another. Now, we are following the situation live for you in Tel Aviv, and we will be watching to see if there is any renewed pressure going on. As I was saying earlier, this is all in preparation for what they call a so-called disruption day. Now, this is all to do with the protest movement against the government's judicial reforms. Now, they are planning to conduct several of these disobedience acts, and they will take place across the country. Now, at present, this is the situation that's going on. The coalition government's bill is to remake the legal and judicial system. Now, that is currently on hold. Now, according to reports, the latest disruption is to keep the passion of the protests going. So they don't want to lose that momentum that they've seen. And this is as protesters are seeking to ramp up their anti-government demonstrations once again. Now, the events that will be taking place, they are all centred around the theme of equality. Now, media reports suggest that protests will block major highways and intersections as well for ultimate disruption throughout the whole of the country to make their point and make their stand. Now, this will include the major highway going through Tel Aviv as well. We are joined now by our correspondent. We do have Jodie Cohen joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you so much indeed, Jodie. I know you've been covering this intensely throughout the last weeks. Can you tell us about the latest from the protest and what exactly is going on in the country? Okay, apologies. We're having some technical issues today. We will get back to Jodie Cohen there in Tel Aviv later for you in the programme. London is in celebratory mood ahead of King Charles's coronation, but a move to use facial recognition technology by the security officials has sparked a row. Now, objections have been raised against the decision, as some believe it will be used to target demonstrators and activists. Well, the Metropolitan Police, they've decided to use the technology as part of the security measures in a bid to avoid any untoward incident during the coronation ceremony. Well, they say that the technology will be used to scan faces and match it against a list of people wanted for alleged crimes. Well, it can also be used in identifying convicted terrorists mingling in the crowds. But campaigners have turned the move as extremely wrong. They accuse the police of using the coronation to stage the biggest live facial recognition operation in British history. Molly Gambier has sent us this report from London.
As London gears up to host the coronation ceremony on the 6th of May, as a part of the security arrangements, there are also plans to use facial recognition technology by the police. The technology essentially involves scanning people's faces and using them against a list of people that the police want for alleged crimes. Also to identify terror suspects who may attempt to mingle with the crowd. This as thousands of people are expected on the streets of London on the day of the coronation. Now, while the police is saying that this technology will not be used to target protesters and activists, campaigners have expressed their concern. This also comes after the police have been given greater powers to tackle disruption to the coronation under new laws that came into effect on Wednesday. This also comes after an incident where a man was arrested right outside Buckingham Palace after throwing suspected shotgun cartridges into the palace grounds just days ahead of the coronation ceremony. This incident highlighted security concerns as London prepares to host the coronation, an event that it is hosting after 70 years. Molly Gambier in London for WION World is One. The countdown is on for the coronation ceremony slated for the 6th of May. London gearing up to host that event, which is taking place after 70 years. Preparations underway in full swing. Right now, we're taking you getting you a closer look at the route that will be taken by the coronation procession. Right behind me is the Buckingham Palace. From here, the coronation procession will be making its way down the Mall towards Westminster Abbey via Admiralty Arch here. Viewing areas on both sides of the route. It's a 1.3 mile long route which has been used for several royal occasions. At this point, security arrangements, of course, have been made, tight security arrangements along this entire area. In fact, central London witnessing large numbers of people who will be wanting to catch a glimpse of the coronation.
Okay, staying with UK news, because the Conservative Party and its leader, Rishi Sunak, braces for a major electoral test. As the UK struggles through the worst of the cost of living crisis right now, the local council elections across England, they will shed light on main contenders for the general election next year. Well, in the Prime Minister's questions, the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, criticised the Tories on several issues. He said nearly 2 million Britons will end up paying more on their home loans, while accusing the Conservative government of using public money as a casino chip. Well, in the opinion polls, Labour has built a double-digit lead over the Conservatives. Rishi Sunak tried his best to get the elections back to local issues. While replying to Starmer, he said the Tory party is delivering what he had promised with lower council tax, lower crime and better roads. Sunak also defended the latest change introduced by his government for his election. Well, the change says that voters are required to show photo identification for the very first time. Well, the move has been denounced by the Labour Party as the opposition see it as an attempt to suppress the vote. Well, according to various surveys, the main issue with voters are double-digit inflation and the National Health Service crisis. Well, for more detail, we're joined by our London correspondent, Alex Isat, live from the British capital for us. Alex, it's a big weekend, and it'll be so interesting to see if these polls really do ring true and Labour really is ahead right now?
Well, we obviously won't hear anything until tomorrow. Voting opens this morning at 7 a.m. and it closes at 10 p.m. and they will be checking those votes all through the night. And then slowly tomorrow we will see the results of those votes. Now, there's 8,000 seats up to grab in 230 places across England, not here in London, however. But what we are expecting to see is a potential shift from a Conservative hold to potentially a Labour, Lib Dem or other candidate's hold. Now, local elections are, although give us a bit of a taste of what we may expect in the general elections, they aren't always as cut and dry as that. In fact, local elections, usually the candidates are from independents or Lib Dems, and they are really reliant on what those councils have done for the local people and what they can do in the future. You know, you rightly said about the PMQs there yesterday. Well, also Rishi Sunak fought back against Keir Starmer, suggesting that those that are Labour-held areas had even worse house building. They also had terrible roads, and he was also contemplating the fact that Labour versus Conservative areas, council-run areas, are very different, and obviously he said the Conservative areas were much better. But it does come down to what the general populace wants in that area. So although we may see this faction, Labour do need to get at least 10% more votes. That's like at least 1,000 more MPs. At the moment, Conservatives hold about over 3,000 seats in that 8,000 seats area, but Labour do need at least 1,000 more to at least show that they're moving forward, and also show that the people are behind Keir Starmer as a leader, because it isn't just about the Labour Party in general, it's about the leader going forward. But there does seem to be across all the social media that a lot of people just want to vote anti-Tory because they don't like the way that the government is running things. But as I said, it will come down to exactly how those councils are being run in their specific areas. That's what's going to count today when we see the voting. And then obviously tomorrow when we get those results in, we'll have a bit more of an idea about exactly what the general public really think, if the turnout turns out to be good, because the last couple of years it hasn't been so great. Hopefully those voters will show up at least today.
Thank you, Alex Isaac. Really, really appreciate that. As you say, it'd be interesting to see how many people turn out, of course, and a few things you mentioned there. Will it be an anti-Tory vote, and how Keir Starmer will get on as well? It's going to be very interesting. Thank you so much. Well, we're going to stay with UK politics now, because the former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, his political career, it hangs in the balance again, as MPs investigating claims that he misled the UK Parliament over the Partygate scandal could be revealed within days now. According to a report by The Guardian, the Privileges Committee is set to bring its inquiry into the former Prime Minister to a close, and the date is finalised as the 23rd and the 24th of May. We will find out. The report also suggests the 7-member committee will go through the evidences in an effort to come to a conclusion about Johnson's conduct finally. Well, once the final report is signed by the committee, Johnson will get 2 weeks to reply before they make it public. After that, the Rishi Sunak-led government will have to table a motion to review the findings. Well, until now, Johnson has maintained his stance on the issue. He says he did not knowingly, deliberately or wittingly mislead the Parliament. The use of public money to cover Johnson's Partygate legal requirements has also come under fire as well. Now, if Johnson is found guilty of misleading the Parliament, this could be a serious issue for the Conservative government as well, as it's already struggling from a series of allegations and low rating on opinion polls. The Backstreet Boys, I love the Backstreet Boys. They are back in India after 13 years. The iconic American boy band from the 90s, they're all set to perform in 2 cities in India as part of their DNA World Tour. Well, here's all you need to know about the Delhi and Mumbai concerts.